Hi everybody. This is a first for me. I'm doing lots of firsts lately. Um, I'm in my living room right now, and I've been thinking about this. I need to make videos about me. Not that I wanna say like that I'm this or that, or I'm nothing better or nothing worse than anybody. Everybody deserves. But the reason why I do that is because there's people in my life that have marked, print my heart forever. And gosh, I want to share that. I want to share my experiences. And the reason why I want to share it is because I know it will help people, but it also helps me, believe it or not. All the comments and all the love I receive from you guys, it helps me go on. It helps me move on. And anyway, I really wanted to share some part of my life. So those videos are gonna be called, like, I'm not inventing anything. It's gonna be called story time, or I guess my lifetime, or my life stories. And I'm gonna share with you the good and the bad things. And yeah, so just grab yourself a cup of tea, snacks. That's what I did. I got myself some cookies and my Yazoo tea detox, of course. And I'm gonna okay, I'm gonna talk to you. I have to start by the beginning so you will know a little bit who I am and where I come from. And not that I come from very far away or any special places, but you will just understand as the episode and videos will go on who I am. So I was born in Marseille once upon a time. Born from parents that are originally from Italy. And when I was a little girl, we used to go to Italy for summer. And every time we would go there, I would meet family, and I would want to speak Italian. And therefore, my mom saw there that I had a thing for foreign languages. So she put me in that school that had all that I don't know, playground in English and those activities in English, and it was awesome. I get to travel, I get to do stuff in English, even though I was 8, 10 years old. It was great, and there I knew that I wanted to do something with traveling, English, something like that. I was so bad at school. Thank God my mom saw that in me, and that she pushed me into learning English more. So therefore, I loved English and loved England, and this is where it starts. I watched the show Saved by the Bell, which was huge back then, and I loved that show. And I was like, wow, is that all what America is about? Cheerleaders, lockers, mascot, games, dances, sports, fun. You guys in the United States, that's pretty much why I make this video in English and not in French, because I feel more American than I feel French sometimes. And you guys have so much more than we do in high school. You guys put... Oh, sorry, I have a message. I have friends. Ooh, an old friend, actually. I dreamed of becoming a cheerleader. I dreamed of having lockers, having friends. I was not doing good at school, and even though I was a very serious, nice little girl, people thought I was good, but I was not good. I was dyslexic. Every teachers would pull me down, would push me down, would would say that I was dumb. I had teachers telling me that I was dumb. I had teachers telling me that I didn't have a brain. How awful is that to say to a little girl? So thank God my mom was smart enough to do, as long as you do your best, you're the best. You're the best that I could be. You're the best that you can be, I guess. And therefore, I'm thankful for my mom for that. Because of going to that special school where I was good in English, and I went and traveled in England early, and I went and traveled to the United States when I was 13 years old in Texas. That was my very first trip, because when I was 12, I told my mom, after watching the show Saved by the Bell, I said, Mom, I want to go and move to the United States. I want to live there. She said, okay, go back to your room, go play with your dolls. I said, no, Mom, I feel it. And for 5 years, I begged my parents. I literally begged my parents moving to United States. Me, because as French people, we cannot move there. I just wanted to be a foreign exchange student. So for 5 years, because my mom wouldn't let go, she's a really protective mom. And finally, my dream came true. Oh gosh, thank you, Lord. When I was 17 years old, I had a huge party, said goodbye to my friends, and I left in the United States. All the stories before that, all the love stories, all the kids and stuff, it was just regular, I guess. I was just really well dressed all the time, so people would think that I was smart, but I was just really average, low average. And I didn't have lots of friends because I had lots of girl jealousy. Not because I was any prettier or any better. I was just different because I was quieter, and I was my mom liked fashion, and so she would buy nice things, but not fashionable things. She would buy classy things. And so therefore I suffered from that. I suffered from that, from not being like the good, like the fun or the coolest one. But that's okay. I went on with that. I went on. I had my dream, I had my goal, and therefore when I was 17 years old, I flew and I went to United States. I went to Colfax, Washington State, a small little town, 3,000 people. And I had the best year of my life. It was just the greatest. Everything I had dreamed of was even better. Everything I had thought about was even better. I was in a host family, and unfortunately, the first host family, the lady was really nice, but she was going through divorce, so she couldn't host me after a month. So the whole community went and looked for a host family for me, and I had suddenly 10 host family willing to host me for a whole year, free. Just those people were so giving, and then ended up splitting my year in 2 parts because I couldn't choose in between 2 families. And if you're listening and if you're watching that video, thank you to you. I'm not mentioning your names in case you don't want to, but you know who I'm talking about. I had the greatest time. I have one big brother back in France, and I happened to have host sisters in the United States. And it was so fun. We did our nails, we exchanged clothes, that things I didn't know. I got to be a cheerleader. It was just the best. I had my locker. It was cool. I was just like in Saved by the Bell. I was just, everything was so cool. What I loved about United States was everything was so spontaneous. Everybody was going for their school as far as, you know, games, and the teachers were liked because they were also the coaches. So therefore, it brought such a, I don't know the words, forgive my English, which is not that good. I've lost it, but the school was so together. The school was so like one whole thing. And to some students, when I go back there and I study, and when I go back there and I see them, it was not like that to them, because it was their high school and they took it for granted, I guess. But for me, it was the best. You know, you had period that you could choose from. You didn't have to go through all that tiring and boring from 8 to 6 o'clock from Monday to Friday. French high school, there you had school until 2, 3, and then you had sport, and I had cheerleading practice, and it was awesome. But the main thing of my exchange student here, and lots of people know who I'm talking about, it's Jessie. Oh my God, tears comes to my eyes when I talk about him. Oh my God, when I moved there, Jessie was 17 and he just got hurt in a farm accident, in a harvest accident. He got hit on his back and got paralyzed from the waist down. Now, again, I'm telling you, when I moved there, he had that accident. And when I moved there, the kids' neighbors met me and wanted to take me out, you know, to show me around and everything. And I heard them talk about Jessie, and they said, we're going to visit him at the hospital tomorrow. Do you want to come? And I said, maybe he doesn't really want to meet people there. You know, when you're like injured and in a hospital, that's not the best place to meet people. But for some reason, they said, no, he will be thrilled. He will be really happy. You don't know Jessie. He's awesome. So the following day, here I am with all those kids in that big truck. We're going to Spokane, to the hospital, and I get into his room. I couldn't see the walls. Guys, I couldn't see the walls. It was filled with balloons, stuffed animals, candy, presents, cards, get well soon, we love you, way to go, Jessie. And I'm like, okay, is that how all Americans do it? Or I guess it was because of Jessie. Jessie was the most loved, liked, appreciated kid in his entire town, in his entire school. He was the best student of the high school. He was the wrestling and the football captain. He was the president of the high school. He was part of the choir and the theater group. Sorry if I missed the word. He was very cute. He was very cute. And oh my gosh, he was like, hey, what's your name and stuff? And I'm like, my name is, you know, and he would be happy to meet me, even though he was paralyzed for the past 5 days, and for the rest of his life he was going to be, but he was smiling, and he was, I don't know, breathtaking. The attitude of that young man, I mean, I was speechless. There's no other words. I wouldn't say traumatized in a bad way, but I was, how can I say, just amazed. Then he went back to school. He came back to school, and all that school had made those t-shirts, Go Jessie, and a little sticker that you will see on my car, on my computer. It says 70, which is his jersey, football jersey number. And everybody in the auditorium, not the auditorium, everybody in the gym, and the press was there, was wearing the Go Jessie t-shirt when he came back. And so he came back into the gym and everybody was like, Go Jessie! And I'm like, 300 kids saying that? I've never seen that in France or anywhere else, not even in movies. And I'm like, is that because it's American? Is that because it's him? And I quickly happened to realize that it was him. He was so loved. He was a Christian, he was courageous, he was happy, he never let anything pull him down. I fell in love. I was admiring him. Willing, walking, blonde hair, dark hair, I don't care, I fell in love. Probably because of all this. And I didn't care because he was in a wheelchair. Some people say, oh, that's such a good thing, your love went over that. Why? Because you have a wheelchair, you're not lovable anymore? Because you got in a car accident and your heart is broken, or you got a leg taken off because you went to war and you fought for our country, and what, you're like good to garbage now? No, you're worth to be loved as well, and even more because you've been through so much. But my mom is a nurse, and when she was working and she couldn't put me in, kindergarten or any kind of like babysitting stuff, she would take me to the hospital, and I would play with people in a wheelchair. They would put me on their laps, and they would take me around the hospital, and I would thought it was so fun. I just never thought it was awkward. So when I met Jessie, wheelchair, walking, it was the same. I just loved him, but he was honey and the girls were bees around him. I never got a chance to talk to him, and I wanted to talk to him so bad. I accepted to go on the homecoming dance with a nice guy, but I accepted only because I didn't think anybody was going to ask me. And then Jessie's best friend comes to me and say, "Oh, you're going with Chad to the dance?" I'm saying, "Yes." He said, "Oh, that's too bad. Jessie wanted to take you out." Okay, I'm gonna kill myself. Just oh my, oh, I was so bummed. I didn't know how to explain Chad and everything. So I went with Chad. We had a date. We double date with another group of friends. But when we went to the dance, I actually saw Jessie there, and I wanted to talk to him, and we danced around, and he was dancing on his wheelchair, and I was dancing, and Chad understood we had a thing because we kept on talking on the hallway and stuff. So when we came to the dance, and that I knew he wanted and invited me, it kind of helped me to go toward him. And then I basically started dancing with him. And so, Chad understood that. Oh, sorry, I said his name. So Chad was my date, my homecoming date. So Chad understood that, we were just going to be friends, of course, that we were just going to go to the dance together. But then a slow dance came, and Jessie was like, I'm sorry, I cannot invite you to dance, and do you want to go out and grab something to drink and go take some fresh air? I said, you know what? No. Let's just sit down. Let's just sit right there. And I sat on the floor. I was just like that, sitting on the floor and just next to him. And I grabbed his hand, and I said, we're dancing right here together. And our hands were like shaking. And he had his hat, and he was bending over me and saying, something like, thank you. This moment was so magic. And then we kissed. And it was the best kiss of my entire life. Then Jessie went home, and we started talking on the phone. And then we went back to school the following week, Monday, and we started going out. And it was the most sane, pure, sincere, truthful, deep, loving relationship I've ever had until now. Even until now, I'm not saying I have found something that's better than what I had with him. We went on the whole year having so much fun. I didn't miss my parents or my family the whole year. I didn't miss them. I'm sorry, they know about it. I felt so happy and so fulfilled. I was living my dream. It was so awesome. So Jessie had surgery on his back on the 2nd of April 1997. On the 2nd of April 1997. 9 hours surgery. I was with his parents and one of his friends. We were waiting in that hospital and we went to get some food out. 9 hours is long, knowing he's in a really long surgery because his back wasn't healing well, and so he had to go through another surgery. So when I came back, it was like 9 o'clock at night. He had been gone for 9 hours. He was white as snow, barely breathing, not knowing what was going on, of course. I couldn't leave the room. His mom said, Maglie, we need to go to the hotel. We need to get some rest. You're not going to stay there. He was in intense care. I said, Barbara, I cannot leave the room. He's my soulmate. He's my soul twin. I couldn't leave Jessie like that. I couldn't leave him. I would feel, I started crying. I said, Barbara, don't take me away from him. I cannot. Just give me a chance. I'm going to stay next to him for the whole night. So I sat next to him. I took his hand. When he was a little awake, I would give him like ice, crunched ice. He was not allowed to drink too much, but all these machines around, all these tubes, and his bed moving on his leg. It has that thing to like for the blood pressure, so it would go back into his body. And I was used to things like that a little bit because during my whole year there, he was going through therapy, and I would go with him, and I was used to see him through, in hospital and being taken care of. But this time was really hard. I mean, you knew that he could have died. It was really hard to see. It's really hard to see the love of your life, the one you love like that. So I stayed all night long, and I prayed all night long, holding his hand, and I was like that, holding his hand just next to his bed. I was awfully tired, but I didn't care. I was with Jessie. I stayed and I stayed and I stayed awake for him, and I prayed and I prayed. And so the following day, he starts to wake up, and I say, hey babe, I'm there. He said, thanks honey for staying with me. And I said, I promise I'll always stay with you. And our relationship was so deep, was so true, was so profound. And our love was, he actually would leave notes, would stay on the phone all night. We would leave notes on each other's locker, books and stuff. And one time he actually said, whatever may happen, because I was going to go back to France, I had to, may we always be together in soul. Which I think we have. And I had to go back. It was very hard. I stayed as long as I could. I stayed there 2 months more than the program was supposed to be. We had our prom dance. We had promises to be married to each other. He was the one, and he's still the one, the love of my life. I came back to France. Gosh, I wouldn't think it would be that hard to explain, to tell the story, but I came back to France. It was really hard. I cried the whole trip long. I was a little happy. I was going to see my family. I hadn't seen them for a whole year, but I was happy to see my family. And I went back to high school, talked to Jessie on the phone as often as we could. It was not free at the time. There was no Facebook, no Messenger, no... Yeah, the old days. Never have I thought a second that this would happen. I came home, and a month after I came, Jessie had to go through surgery again. And his surgery went well. Or I guess, well, at the moment. But then one very early morning, I received a call. My host dad, which I got along really, really well. He calls and I say, "Hey, how are you doing?" And he's like, "Maggie, something happened." I didn't know. I didn't understand. I didn't even think that could happen. I was like, what is he going to tell me? Jessie died. Jessie died? What? I dropped the phone and I screamed so loud. And I called my parents and I said, "Mom, Jessie died!" And they came up to my room and they hugged me and said, What happened? What's going on? And so I picked up back the phone and said, "What happened?" And they said, "He died from a blood clot aneurysm in his heart." I don't know what really happened after all that. All I know is that I was there. My mom was calling the airlines for me to get a ticket to go to his funerals. My dad was calling the high school saying I would not show up for a few weeks. And all of a sudden, after I have lived the best year of my entire life, the nightmare, my life, which was going to be a nightmare from now on, was starting that day, the 30th of September 1997. There's no word to describe the loss of someone. Unfortunately, lots of you probably know how it feels, and I'm sorry about that. But see, that's why I wanted to share that with you. Because Jessie proved to me, showed me that love and faith and courage and happiness lives on and go on. There's not a single day since he passed away that I don't think of him. I made a little tattoo on my ankle. He was not for me having a tattoo, but I've always wanted a tattoo, and a year after he passed away, I decided to have a little J, as Jessie. And then I thought, oh, I'm gonna have a little angel, and I love bears. I love bears. And his mom used to call him Pooh. So I thought I'm gonna get a Winnie the Pooh with wings and what's the name of that? And his initials on the t-shirts. And I was the luckiest girl on earth to be loved by Jessie. His funerals took place in the gym. The TV was there, the press was there. And it was crazy how people were touched by his life, how much he had faith in God, how much courage he had against his sickness or his disability. So every time you hear me say, my angel. By the way, I'm wearing my angel Victoria's Secret sweatpants. That's him that I'm referring to. There's not a man since I've met him, even though he was only 17, 18 years old. He was a real man. There's not a man since I've met him that loved me the way he loved me. He really loved me for who I was and who I am. He really loved me in the most romantic way. I know that I could have gone blind or hit by a car and not be as pretty as I was, and he would still love me. I didn't realize that at that time, because now that I have the life experience, I'm 37, it's been 20 years that he's gone. Now that I can say that this world is such a world of people. They're not satisfied, and so they go on, they dump you, they don't call you anymore, they just want to have sex with you, they just want a relationship where they just want to have fun. Nothing is deep, nothing is solid, nothing is true, nothing is, or rarely. I know some of you have, and you're so lucky to have found that, but I've experienced it so much. Unfortunately, I've never found someone who loved me as much as he did. And I don't think I ever will. And I don't think I ever will. So I'm making this video because I want people to know about Jessie. I don't want him to die. I don't want his memory to die. He died, his body did, but not his memory. Not him, not who he was. I love him with every single part of me, from the bottom of my heart, and forever. So this is it. This is my video about Jessie. Took me 4 years to recover. I'll tell you in other videos how I went on. I met people. I went on with my life. I went on sometimes, and sometimes I did not. But now I have 2 lives to live, and that's why I live my life to the fullest. That's why I do all those things. That's why I volunteer in South Africa with animals, with kids in hospital. That's why I enjoy life like if I was a kid. Life can stop in a blink of an eye. So, no, that's not gonna happen. I'm gonna live my life to the fullest in order to live 2 lives. So, thank you. Thank you for listening. Thank you for watching till then. It was long. I couldn't make this video short. It wouldn't have been honorable. It wouldn't have been nice to Jessie for me to make a short video. This is the longest one. Promise the other ones will be shorter, but I had to make that video. I'm gonna have some other videos. They are gonna be not as sad. I have good moments in my life too, don't worry. But this is the video I had to start with. So you take care. You enjoy yourself. You take care of yourself. You say to your loved ones that you love them. Because I'm happy about one thing. When Jessie died, he knew I loved him. The reason why he knew I loved him is because a couple was before he died, we talked on the phone. And I called him twice. I called him 3 times. I said, I love you. He said, I love you too, honey. We hung up. I called him again. I said, oh, I'm sorry. I think I forgot to mention something. I love you. I love you too, honey. Now we have a saying in France, never 2 without 3. So I called him a 3rd time and said, guess what? He said, I said, I love you. He said, oh, really? He said, I love you too. And when I hung up, I looked at my phone. I said, yeah, I have to hang up. I have to be reasonable. It's expensive. And my parents were paying for the phone calls. Never thought I'd never hear his voice again. Never thought I would never hear his voice again. Anyway, so thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Thanks for following. If you want to know and if you want to follow my life story, then subscribe, put the thumbs up, leave me your comments, and please, no mean comments. They will be erased anyway. This is some place where we can share our experiences and where we can support. If you're going through that and you want to talk about it, just write me a private message. I'll be happy to answer. So you take care of yourself, and I'll talk to you very soon. Love you.